welcome to this episode of Beers with Barb, where today I'm going to teach you how to take closet doors such as this, go from Jennifer Aniston, they look very boring, they're vanilla, and I'm going to teach you how to do a DIY and give something attitude, okay? We're going to Shaniqua these doors right up, okay? It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting. And ask yourself this, would you rather bring Jennifer Aniston with you to the bar or Shaniqua? Okay? Who's got your back? As Jennifer Aniston, most you can use her for is a goddamn shield. But Shaniqua, she's going to have your back. She may have a taser, and, she's ready. She's going to fight for you, So I'm taking Shaniqua. I don't know about you. So yeah, let's dive in. Feet first. Now, you could paint on here or draw whatever you want, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a beautiful portrait of my son, okay? And for those of you who don't know my son, well, I took him in, okay? I caught him trespassing. He was robbing me in my attic with my trailer. And, I didn't know what to name him, so I named him Darnell because there's always some Darnell breaking into our neighborhood. And he's the cutest damn thing you've ever seen. And I love my Dari. So, he did eat, the head off of my 1972 Betty Boop. Okay, better check out my Attic Chronicles. And maybe on the other door, we do a little something about take you down Barb's road of her childhood. Everybody always says, how did you turn out so great, and what's your upbringing, So I just give you a teaser, okay, until Barbara Walters interviews me. Well, we're gonna get through this together, okay? Let's go. Now, every single Darnell, that I've ever known in my life has always had, a very, very large, really larger than life, I gotta say, head. Okay? I don't know what it is about Darnell, but they all got these real big, just beautiful heads. Okay? And, I ain't mad at it because, I love a big head, beautiful. We do a little eye, a little noses. He's got little wispy hair, so cute, You do a little bit of an ear, so do a nice stroke there. Yeah, that's nice as well, okay? And do a nice little stroke there, It's kind of, I might have messed up Darnell's ears, but hopefully he ain't mad at me. Okay, beautiful. Give that a nice stroke. Very nice. It's not hard, people. If you're good with your hand, and you know how to move it back and forth, there's just, no trouble. So, next thing is you want to add his leg. Okay, he has got nice flying squirrel legs. They're kind of this. A little bit of a thigh. It's very nice, okay? Darnell, he's going to love this because this is Darnell's room. So, this is special. This is special, do a little leg there. And you don't want to forget about the bushy tail, okay? They all got real bushy-ass tails. So we do up like this. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, And, you got to get a gauge on the brush, okay? Because this one is a little bit difficult. But it's beautiful, just as suchness, okay? And give them little hands, we got to give them little hands. So you want to come armed with a set, okay? And I said set, not a cassette, okay? And we'll just do, like, oh, cute little armies, there we go, these little hands, so cute, so cute. So you can paint whatever you want, Paint your mother-in-law, Paint somebody you can't stand, and then throw darts at it, whatever it is, because that's nice, beautiful, isn't he cute? I mean, and I almost forgot, of course, he has a little bit of a buck tooth, he's always got that one, I think his cousin is Bucky, okay, so cute, my little boy, yeah! Don't forget, add a happy whisker, and a happy whisker, and a happy whisker, because listen, people, there ain't no mistakes, there's just happy little accidents. So cute, so cute. Look at this. This is how you take a door from ordinary to extraordinary. From Jennifer Aniston, okay, to Shaniqua. This says attitude. It says pizzazz, So, he's happy. He's very happy up here. Darnell loves clouds, His brain is always up in the clouds, so you do a little suchness here. And I love it, And if I made enough room, I'd have added his favorite sweatshirt, which we can't find. He's always said, Mom, where's my Coolio sweatshirt? I don't know where you left it. Anyways, if you haven't checked out Darnell's playlist, you'll see all the favorite musics. Okay? Beautiful. Now, walk down memory lane. We're going to start when Barb was just a sweet little baby. Okay? And her daddy, her daddy left her for the big Holly of the Wood. Okay? Why? Well, because, he thought he was some hotshot and he wanted to be an actor. And, if you can't tell who my daddy is just by looking at me, because, we got the same figure. I mean, hello. Like Gumby. Look at that, okay? We got a Gumby face. We got a Gumby figure. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to spell it out for you. Okay? His name is Jim Carrey. Okay? About nobody. They left me when I was just a baby, So that's where I get a lot of my talents from, but, never met the guy. Nothing. Just nothing. No support, no nothing. What was your first job, okay? And I was actually a cocktail waitress, okay? And I had a customer, why don't we name him... let's name him Bart, because that rhymes with fart. Okay, so Bart, I said, Bart, let me take your order. What can I get you, sir? And he says, I'll have a whiskey. I says, beautiful, okay. And I says, well, how do you want your whiskey? And he says, with a pube. And this was the 70s, and I thought, oh my God, I'm armed with so many of them. So I went to the bathroom, and I plucked the most beautiful pube you've ever seen, longest one I could find, okay? And I put it, right on his glass, right on the rim. I made sure I got one that was sticky and had the root still attached. And again, people, you gotta remember, this was the 70s, right? So every punani, you betcha, it was all hair. So that was an order that I could make. Well, I brought it over to Bart, and he says to me, you put a pube on my drink. I says, what do you mean? That's how you ordered it, okay? And he says, I didn't want a pube, I wanted a cube. And I says, go back to grammar school, asshole. And then I got fired, okay? So, that was my first job. Then I says, you know what? The Red Room up near Holiday, Port Richie, they've been wanting me to strip for the longest time, So, I says, I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to get on that pole, Spent many years there. And I had an original act, let me tell you. And for those of you who don't know, my cousin, very famous guy, okay? Does this look familiar to you? Okay? Yeah, well, Spider-Man. He's my 200,000th cousin times 88 divided by 4 squared times 0. And he's got powers, He can cast his web and go wapowie. He can strangle a man's neck. He can scale a skyscraper. Huh? So, I too have powers. And, some people say that it's a defect. But me, no. I'm going to tell you what it really is, okay? I go to a doctor, and doctor says, Barb, you have the saggiest titties I've ever seen, He says it's genetics, And my act, it was real original, I pick up one breast off the floor, before I went out. I pick up the other breast off the floor. And I walk to that pole like nobody's business. and I cast those saggy titties out around that stripper pole, and I threw my head back, and I gave an arch, you know, because men love an arch, and I did blah 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 blah, and it was amazing act, you know, is what I was known for. And the man came up to me one day, and I says, "Hey asshole, last call for lap dance was 20 minutes ago." And he says, I don't want a lap dance. And I says, "You want to marry me?" He says, "No, my name is Mr. Ringling, and I got a circus. And I want you in my circus. I want to put you in a cage." And he loved an Eminem, ensemble episode. And so he moved me to Gibsonton with all the carnies. And I had the time of my life. I mean, let me tell you, you know, I hung out with the midgets, you know, and I have threesomes with the midgets. And, you know, they was so fun because they just giggle, you know, and it was so fun. And then I took the virginity, okay, of the three-legged man. Yeah, I couldn't even believe it. But he was not, you know, not one for sex. But he loved playing footsie, you know, let me tell you. And then there was the hairiest man in the world. And I couldn't even find his dick, you know. Took forever. And I had the time of my life, you know. I was very talented. And, you know, so, but sometimes, you know, we're all born a little different. Barb's more like this. But what you gotta do, people, is you gotta take your defects, okay? And you gotta turn them into something fabulous, you know? And so, yeah, I was making a lot of money with my saggy titties. And, you know, and also use them as a weapon. I strangle a man. You know, you gotta remember that, Spider-Man is my relative. So that's it. So, you know, that's where we're at. And I'd say this is, you know, it's a beautiful walk down memory of the lane. So, you know, you walk into somebody's house and they say, "Oh, who is Jim, Barb?" And you say, "My bastard daddy." And who is Bart? And you say, "An asshole," you know, and you know, this is, you know, 70s. What a great era, you know. Love the 70s, you know. Not a bald eagle in sight. You know, it wasn't the trend. And so, you know, there's just a lot of conversation pieces. And this is how you turn ordinary into extraordinary. Okay? It's beautiful. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the episode of Beers with Barb. And, you know, we'll see you soon. Okay? Signing off.